Feel the power. Just feel the music. Feel the
candle flip.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is
present peace. this will interest you, was in the Windmill Theatre in Great Windmill Street, and you could walk there from here if you want to. It's still the same. It's still a lap dancing joint, I believe. But it seems that the girls would come on, and by law, they could come on, nothing on, but they couldn't move a muscle. So they would come on smiling, and they would have to keep the smile and not move a muscle for 10 minutes. So, can you imagine the auditorium full of soldiers in London for the weekend, all bevied up, as we say in this part of the world, full of Carlsberg for you Danish guys. And the girls would come on, they would stand there, not move a muscle for 10 minutes, and then the curtain would come down, and then a stand-up comedian would come up and tell jokes for about 5 or 6 minutes. For those British people here, all those stand-up comedians, we actually grew up with them. They were on TV when I was a kid. So my father told me that within 2 or 3 minutes, the guys got fed up with the stand-up comedians, and they would fire fish and chip containers, they'd fire beer bottles until they got the girls back on again. Well, that's how I feel after coming on after these two guys. So I hope that you don't chuck any San Pellegrino bottles at me in the next few minutes. Folks, I've been trading a long time, not nearly as long as Larry, but I put up my first trade in October 1982. It was a winning trade. It was in South Africa. I was living in South Africa at the time. I went to South Africa to play professional rugby. Everybody says you're not big enough, but it's not the size of it, it's how angry it gets, folks. So I played rugby at the highest level. I'm nearly at international level, didn't quite make it. But South African Breweries Trade was a winner. And I worked while I worked at De Beers. I have a degree in engineering, an MSc in metallurgy, a PhD in mathematics, all of which is largely useless in taking money out of markets regularly, I may add. I worked while at De Beers in South Africa, and I cut the corporate umbilical cord in October 1988, and I've been trading on my own ever since. The move, for those of you that are thinking about it, from being salaried to being taking your wage from the stock market, stroke futures market, stroke forex market is quite a move. And I underestimated how difficult that move would be in October 1988. And it took me 3 or 4 months or 6 or 7 months to actually get the win behind me. So don't underestimate that move, folks. It's quite a big move. When I think in Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, if you haven't read it, you should read it. He tries to buy his wife a fur coat, and after 2 or 3 chapters, he says to himself, well, if you need a coat that badly, the stock market won't give it to you. So, but I've been trading on my own ever since. I was lucky enough to work with Tom for many years. And certainly Larry has taught me a tremendous amount along the way as well. I have Larry's very, very first books. He sold 2 copies of his first book. I bought one, his mother bought the other one. So he's nodding his head as well. When I started to do a seminar in the stock market. My first seminar was done by pure accident, because I was in a little town outside Johannesburg called Rustenburg. If you ever owned a platinum share, that's where they come from, Rustenburg. And it was at Rustenburg Golf Club. It was in the late 1980s, around Wimbledon time. And the speaker was the mine manager of Rustenburg Platinum, which is the biggest platinum mine in the world. It's now a part of Anglo-American, listed here in London. And he got laryngitis, he couldn't speak. So they asked me to come up and talk to the audience, and I hadn't a clue what I was going to say, but I just showed everybody what I do myself, and that's largely what I'm going to show everybody on on Sunday afternoon, what I do myself. In the audience, there was a chap who was a desk head at a bank called Nasdaq, a South African bank. And he asked me to actually come in and train his traders how to become consistent, because they were making a heap of money and then giving it all back again. To get them off that roller coaster ride that so many of us have. That went well, and I did my first big technical analysis seminar to a crowd in an auditorium like this at the University of Stellenbosch, just outside Cape Town, and that was in 1989. So where is Andrew? Andrew, yes, but in just close to where we first met. It's in Belleville, as you well know, University of Stellenbosch. And some of the notes and some of the charts that I'll be showing you on Sunday, the schematics, in fact, came out of that 1989 seminar. So I've been around the block for a long time. I've got the trades that I've got going at the moment. Maybe, Tom, can you pull them up, Tom?
Yes.
Gold.
Not Bitcoin.
Gold on a 4-hour chart. And folks, I take a more leisurely path in my dotage than these two gentlemen. The tail should never wag the dog. Just remember what this is all about. It's all about lifestyle, in my humble opinion. And I have no real interest in cars. I've done that. I've no real interest in flashy houses, because I've done that as well. And when you've got one of them, they're a bloody liability. But I love horses. So I have a weakness for horses. I have a horse on both continents. I've got one in South Africa, and I've got one here.
Sorry, 4 hours?
4-hour chart, yeah. This week, I've been short of it twice.
There. Sorry, Dave.
Thanks.
I got a laser point of that thing there.
Oh, God, and you come.
I know.
So we've come on a bit, haven't we?
Laser points are go figure.
I've been short of it twice this week, and the work that I'm going to present on Sunday is my cut on something that's 100 and 120 years old, made famous by a technician of yesteryear called Richard Wyckoff. Tom and I discussed this over the years. It's amazing how you start in this business with one methodology, and then you weave to dozens and dozens of other things, and you then come back to where you bloody well started. So I've been short of this this week, if I can get my fat finger onto this thing without breaking it. I've been short of it from about here, and I rode it down to there, and I lost a little bit on as it pulled back on me. I got back into it again last night, and I've held it and still holding it. We shall see. As you can see, it in fact stopped at that low. And if you actually look at the volume in there, there was actually a bit of demand come into the market at that low. So looking at price and volume together is an edge, in my humble opinion. Price is the most important, but you can actually tell from price and volume relationships, and I assure you they're not rocket science, that whether somebody's playing
up into fractions and scale out.
It is with great sadness in my heart to announce that
my son worked for before he started his own company. 5 losers in a row after 32. The fear of this is Mark Douglas's fears, folks. Fear of being wrong, the fear of losing money, the fear of missing out, the fear of leaving money on the table. And those two fears, 1 and 2, and certainly for men above 50, and there's a few of us here that are above 50, the fear of being wrong and the fear of losing money is much, much worse than death itself. Okay, we're going to die anyway, you know. So, but the whole concept of being wrong or losing money, you know, this is slightly cynical, but I want you to think about this. What is your true motivation for being in the market? Are you in the market to make money, or are you in the market to solve a puzzle? I'm going to leave that with you to think about.
To make money, there's nothing to think about it.
What's there to think about?
A lot of people are in the market to solve a puzzle. They think they're in the market to make money, but they're really not. They're trying to solve a puzzle. Just think about that. Okay, so those two big fears are real. I've got over those myself because one, I firmly believe that anything can happen. If you're right 80% of the time, you're wrong 20% of the time. On the next trade, you don't, whether it's one of the 80 or one of the 20, that is a reality of the situation. My money management is good, and that comes from being smacked quite a few times. I've still got a problem with missing out. Anybody got a problem with missing out? Yeah. Still, after all these years, maybe another 40 years, I'll get that right. And then leaving money on the table. Now, I coached a group of farmers in South Africa. These are not Farmer Brown type farmers with a wee red tractor. These are guys, the poor ones drive Cessnas, okay? The really rich ones have Learjets, and they're all pulling diamonds illegally out of the Orange River. And they take them to Antwerp in the upholstery of the Learjet. Seriously rich dudes. I had one guy who was up 10 million South African rands, £1 million, £500,000 now, on a white maize contract. And he gave it all back, every last bit of it back, because he thought the market was going to move further, okay? So, and if you haven't read Trading in the Zone, I think you should read Trading in the Zone. It's just a pity the author is no longer with us. So our journey, folks, is to be able to execute without fear or hesitation. And I'm going to address my best shot and fear at the moment: running away quick, letting winners run, and pushing winners. Let me take you back to 1992. 1992, I sold a mining tools company to Smith of Texas. And for the first time in my life, I was really, really, really wealthy. Couldn't believe it. The company was worth bugger all. But I designed a mining tool, and every oil well that's drilled in the world is drilled with my drill bit, believe it or not. Every last one. And it was something that I took with me out of De Beers, and I developed it on my own. But I didn't have the cash to commercialize it. So I sold it, but did really, really well out of it. I was in London at the time, and I managed to get a copy of this little book. I bought it at Waterstones. It's called The Little Money Bible, by a guy called Stuart Wilde. This is a guy long since dead. And Stuart ran the Las Vegas MBA. And the theory was that if you could go to Vegas and win and take money off the casinos, that making money in business would be a piece of cake. So I didn't have anything better to do. I went to Vegas for a month to learn how to play blackjack and roulette and craps. Craps, my favorite game. Now, I've never gambled, and I come from a Scottish Presbyterian family where gambling was looked upon as the work of the devil. And by the way, they're largely correct in that, I think. But I had a friend of mine who's a psychologist, not a trading psychologist, and he said that I would actually benefit from learning how to gamble to become more aggressive in my trading. Okay, so I thought it was a good idea. So I went off with Stuart to learn how to play roulette mostly. And we sat there for the first day, and let's assume that you're just playing red and black. And you're playing a $10 bet on red or black. And you bet $10 and you make $10, and you've got 7 winning trades in a row, you make a miserable $70, right? Da, 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 da. Now, one of the methodologies that's proposed by the casinos and the casino books is that what's called the martingale betting system. And this was a system that my grandfather on my mother's side used for the horses. He would go to the track and he would bet a $5 on the second favorite. In the very likely event of the second favorite not winning, he would bet a $10 on the second favorite on the second race. In the very likely event of the second favorite not winning, he would bet 20 quid on the second favorite on the third race. So he would average down his trades. And frequently he came ahead, did well at that, and he had a bit of fun. And believe it or not, the bookies have in fact stopped that second favorite bet, because it is a good bet. So unfortunately, with the martingale system, if it goes against you, you double up, and by the time you get a winner, you've got to bet $1,280 to get your $10 back. Not good. So here's what Stuart Wilde proposed, and this is when I first was alerted to the power of adding to winning trades. This is where it all came from. He proposed in our course, which lasted nearly a month, an anti-martingale system, which I still use on the roulette wheels to this day, where if we have a winning trade, wrong way, David. So, did I get this right now? There is we lose and we just keep betting. So with a reverse martingale, if we have 7 losers in a row, and then we get 1 win, we lose a miserable $60. But if we add when we've got a winner, we in fact make $1,270. And when we lose, we go back to the basic bet again. So this still works. So if you go to the casino some night and you play red and black, okay, there's a little white ball, which is the spread. Same thing. You'll get a wheel that is not trending, where you get a red, a black, a red, a black, a red, a black. And if you get a wheel like that, well, you don't lose much money. If you get 3 or 4 in a row, you lose 3 times, 4 times your bet. But the trick is that when you get a red and you win, you double up. And you'll find that the wheel trends just like a market. Now, there's a little scoreboard. The next time you're in a casino, go down to the end of the table and have a look at the scoreboard. The electronic scoreboard. And you'll see long runs of red, long runs of black. So when I see a red, I double up. And I probably double up for the 3rd time. Da, da, da. Make good money. And then as soon as you get black, you lose 1, you go back to the basic bet again. Da, 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 da. That works. Exactly the same way as a market. So from that, from that month in Vegas, I first decided, way back in 1992, that the way to really accelerate profits was to add to winners. Tom, I have a guy in South Africa who's tried this, and he actually plays it the same way as you would play roulette. In other words, if he takes a trade, he scalps it. He gets in, he makes 10 points. That's a win. He takes the money, and then the next time he gets in again, he goes in at double the size. Takes the money quick. Gets in again, treble the size. So he doesn't let the position run and add to it. He takes his money along the way for what it's worth. And many people would say there's extra costs in that, and there certainly is. So that's where this whole concept of adding to winners came from. It was that month in Vegas many, many years ago. And that system still works to this day. And I've gone through this very quickly, but I'm going to give these notes to Tom, and Tom will send them all out to you. You can actually work through that on your own. And he'll also send you out the roulette course. And Larry, I've decided to go up £1,000 more than you. It's $36,000 for my roulette course, okay?
36,000?
Yeah, you want $35,000 for your course, so I'll put another $1,000 on mine for the roulette course, okay? So Tom will send the stuff out on Monday, okay? It's great fun, and when you go to that roulette table and you win and you double up, everybody at the table will be looking at you as if you've got two heads. Okay, who's this friggin' idiot? And then you double again, and then everybody will be just freaking out, because you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to go the other way, double down. Great fun indeed. And I've been chucked out of a casino on the Edgware Road for taking too much money off them. Chucked out. There is one wheel in the casino on Edgware Road that trends a lot. So if you go to Vegas, just wander around, look at the scoreboard and see which wheels are trending, because they get worn a little bit. Some of them trend. And what I mean by trend, I mean a long row of reds, a long row of blacks in a row. That's the one to go for. You can't lose money when you're wrong. So that's 2 gambling tips. I told the people who came on Friday that my son plays poker at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning. That's midnight, 1 o'clock in the US, and he takes money off drunk Americans. He says it's incredibly easy, okay? A piece of cake. You can go through that in a great deal of detail. And that's where this all came from. So I've answered this question, folks. Can discipline be built, or has one person got it and another person hasn't got it? And I believe it can be built. And can be built relatively easily. Now, I build discipline very easily indeed. And many of you will think that that's a good thing. But it's just as easy to build a bad habit as it is to build a good habit. Really? Yeah, very easy if you let yourself slip. So I never have the chips with the meal. Not because I don't like chips, and because chips once in a while won't do me any harm. But I'm scared, because I know myself well, that if I have chips once or twice in a row, I could build a habit to have them every day. And I don't need that. So I'm very, very careful. And it's that little V thing that Steve talked about yesterday. What little thing can you do today so that you can move towards the person that you want to be? So you really have to be very careful about those small things. My humble opinion. I'm no psychologist. I frequently have to refer to the world's greatest trading psychologist. And Steve, if you're here, unfortunately, it's not you. It's a little doctor who practices out of Tennessee, Dr. Jack Daniels. Okay. Has anybody consulted with, in fact, do you remember the Al Pacino and The Scent of a Woman? He says, I know him so well, I call him John. Oh, that's such a good line, that, yeah. We have a Vectorvest customer up in Arbroath, north of Scotland, north of Edinburgh, a cold place. She says that there's a great trading psychologist, Andrew, up in Edinburgh, up in Glasgow, Dr. Johnny Walker. Okay, works wonders, she tells me. So I'm no trading psychologist, but the paradox is that when you've got discipline, you don't need it. And I assure you that I don't need any discipline to go to the gym. None whatsoever. In fact, I need to exercise a great deal of discipline not to go. And Tom will tell you, every morning in the Which Way Today room, about 10:30, I would get twitchy because it's time to go to the gym. Simple as that. Larry, I did early on one of Van Thorpe's courses a lifetime ago, and I got to know him quite well. And we had to fill in this, just at the early days of the internet, we had to fill in why we got in, the normal trade log and whatever, and he gave me a bollocking online. It was a Skype meeting when remember when Skype was new? You could chat on Skype, it was such a novelty. And he gave me a bollocking in front of everybody. He said, David, getting out of a position because you want to go to the gym is not a valid reason, okay? So he passed away the other day, old Van Thorpe. When you got discipline, you don't need it. And you'll find, and where's Belinda? Belinda, you'll find that if you go through that exercise that I'm going to talk about, and I've cribbed it from Mark Douglas, I don't care where it comes from as long as it works. You'll find that you'll build that discipline, okay, to get over any hurdle. And we've all got the same hurdles to go over, and it is a rite of passage. So out of all of this, folks, all of this, and my word, you've got a bit of work to do because there's been an awful lot of stuff presented here, and first-class stuff, not, as they would say in Afrikaans, not by groot bullshitters, but by people who have traded an awful lot. Stuff that works. That guy on the internet that sits in front of that car and he's skiing and he's playing polo with Harry and Willie, that guy, that's my fastest move of the day. When I see him coming up on YouTube, I sprint across the floor to try and switch it off YouTube, you know. So the industry's populated, unfortunately, with scoundrels. So I think I put that in twice. So I used to do this as a business, believe it or not. And there was a brokerage, a big brokerage. It used to say, David, we got this chap from Saudi, and he spends, he gives us $200,000 a month commission, and he's losing money hand over fist. We can't afford to lose a comb. Can you go and sort him out? So I would sit there for 2 or 3 days going through the trading discipline exercise. I don't do it anymore. I just couldn't be bothered, to tell you the truth. And I had a fight with the last one that I did it with. But it was a very profitable time. It taught me an awful lot. So here's what Mark suggested. You need to decide on a system out of all of this that suits you. And my challenge to you folks is to resolve to follow that system for a batch of trades without changing the rules. Who's been through that exercise already? Okay, well, that's wonderful. Tom has, I know, many times. Hania has. Quite a few of us have. Well, the rest of us, and ladies and gentlemen, that is a rite of passage. Otherwise, you're going to be coming on courses for the rest of your days. You're going to be buying books for the rest of your days. You're going to be having a double Johnny Walker at night, and you're going to see some bloke who sells you the long-lost secrets of W.D. Gann. There's a guy in Australia who charges 25,000. I can't remember whether it's American dollars or Australian dollars for the long-lost secrets of W.D. Gann. Okay? And it's so easy to fall for that stuff after you've had a cluster of bad trades, especially if you've got a little bit of lubrication at work. Easy. So you've got a bit of work to do, folks. It's an exercise that I do myself. at least 2 or 3 times a year because the discipline slips. Will you humor me and do that? Okay? Don't make it complicated. The last time I was here, I put in a very simple mechanical system that's trivial, and I'm sure Tom will send you that. If you need something that's mechanical, it's just couldn't be simpler. It's called a tipping point, and it's just a few lines of code that you can write. But I'm going to suggest something later on in the afternoon that you can do. And you know, building discipline, it's, you know, the old personal trainer. Has anybody got a personal trainer here? I had for a long time, and I did again after the pandemic. Personal trainers would like to think themselves that they're in the exercise business, but they're not. They're not bright enough to work it out. That they're in the discipline building business. Because invariably, unless you're playing for Manchester United, you hire a personal trainer because you make a commitment. That makes a commitment to get there because you're paying her $100 or £100 an hour. So you want to be there. She'll tell you that she's got a set of exercises that are ideal for your body type, but you can see them writing the exercises out in the car park, you know. So they're making them up as they go along, and it doesn't matter. Okay, they're in the discipline building business, as the same as I was when I was trying to get people back on the straight and narrow. So, if you want to do this, folks, quite honestly, you can start to do it in a demo account if you want, or start to do it with a real account, but just trade very low in size. Trade it at £1 a point until you get the hang of it. And just write it off as a training exercise. Now, something very special happens when you do this. Somewhere between 10 and 15 trades, all the internal resistance goes away. I've seen this so many times with myself and with dozens of people that I've done this with. You're going to find that you have resistance and then it just goes away. And I don't understand why. There's this whole concept of neuroplasticity that everybody can talk about, but nobody really understands. Electrons firing together in your head, neurons buzzing and making connections. So you're going to find that somewhere between 10 and 15 trades, the resistance goes away. As I say, I build discipline very easily. So I found myself that after 8 to 13 trades, all the resistance went away. So that's your task out of this. Quite honestly, all of the technical analysis is largely irrelevant compared to this. Okay. And the more you resist that, the more difficult you're going to find this business is going to be for you.
Can I have a question?
Of course.
The purpose of this is that you make 10 to 15 trades.
30 trades.
13 trades.
30, 30.
30. And then what's supposed to happen? Like,
you're going to find your resistance to following a simple set of rules melts away. Just melts away. Now, maybe you haven't got resistance to following a simple set of rules. That would make you very special. That would make you very special indeed. Most people have.
especially in the different ways. I am. I'm special in the different ways. It's not this.
Okay. You pick whatever methodology you want. Makes no difference to the exercise. Anyway, it's worked for everybody that I've put them through it, that have been honest enough to do it, it's worked for them. Now let's tackle fear, folks. The condition of fear, the first trading fear, is divorced from any true and immediate danger. Would you agree? And it is my opinion that you can always cope with the present moment, but it's very difficult to cope with the future. Now, I was taught this in the Corps, in the Royal Marines, that when some other sword's firing at you, or you're going into a conflict situation, that the key to managing that is to keep your mind incredibly present, not focused on the past, not focused on the future, but totally focused on what you're doing now. And I assure you that when some other sword is shooting at you, that you get there quite quickly. As that thing wings over your head. Sorry, guys, you're making a noise there. Okay. And it is my humble opinion that it's impossible to feel fear in the present moment. And that's why on Friday I asked you to complete that exercise at dinner, where you do your best to go through dinner focused on what was happening then. Did anybody try that? How did you find that, anyone? Pardon, sir? It didn't work. It's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult.
I was fine. She wasn't.
Okay.
She wanted to know everything.
All right. Well, I think that if she directed the conversation that way and you addressed that, then you were present. Okay, you were okay. I think one of the challenges that I think about myself a lot, and I'm lucky enough to live in a lovely part of London. It's a picture-perfect square called Pembridge Square, and Kensington Gardens is just on my doorstep. And I do my best to try and walk in Kensington Gardens and to be totally there. And you'll find that your mind comes to distractions very frequently indeed. It takes quite a bit of practice to stay in the moment, to be totally there. You can get better at it. I'm going to suggest 3 ways that you can get better at it. And I know you all want to get into charts and whatever, but I think you've had a lot of charts by now. I'm going to go into charts in a moment to keep you happy. It is my opinion and observation over many years that all winning traders are very present people. They're focused on what's happening now in relation to their trading rules. And I've found that building presence into your trading is essential to get that 30-trade exercise sorted out. And Tom talked about this on Friday, I think, where he made you work through the exercise of being on a motorbike and turning the throttle. At 50 miles an hour, you're watching everything that's going on. At 70 miles an hour, well, you're reasonably focused. And when the little pointer, or whatever they have these days, goes up through 100 miles an hour, you're not thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. You're totally and utterly there. 100.
It's not so much.
No, well, take it to 150 then. Okay. They're all different. Okay. But there is some point where you'll be focused totally there. Okay. And that's where you want to do your trading. Have you all been to that point? Have you all turned the throttle?
Yes, yes.
And that's where you want to be. And when you're there, time doesn't exist. So if you're at your desk trading, and you're trading on the time frame that Dr. Brooks spoke about, and you're watching the clock at the same time while you're not present, and you're going to find that in your best trading sessions, from the open right through, opens 2:30, right through to 4 o'clock, 4:15, time just disappears. Does that happen to anybody? Or time just completely disappears? That's a really good sign that you're there. Time does not exist in the present moment. Just flashes past. I remember once upon a time, I flew from Heathrow to New York City, and beside me was the fashion editor of Vogue magazine. She was lovely. It was my shortest ever trip to New York. I think, in hindsight, it was probably her longest. So, time just sort of contract. I was totally and utterly there. My word. She in the trading rooms in the city. Who trades in the city here? If you trade in the city, a young lady is known, excuse this chauvinistic moment, ladies, as a belter. Okay, she was a belter of note. There are degrees of belters. A bit of a belter is even more of a belter than a belter. Okay, a bit of a belter, okay. Chauvin, please excuse me that one. Similarly, I asked some bloke at the gym I go to ages ago. He's just come back from a trip to the hard bit of Everest. And I said to him, why do you climb mountains? And he gave me the old stick just because it's there. But I assure you that the reason that people really climb mountains is that when they're up there on the side of that darn mountain, they're not thinking about whether they're going to have the chicken or fish that night. They're totally and utterly there. Special force soldiers that have seen battle very rarely settle in, because in the heat of the battle, they can be in the present moment for many hours and days at a time, and they struggle to go back to normal, and they become quite difficult to manage and normally end up blowing their brains out. So, intense presence is required when a certain situation triggers a reaction with a strong emotional charge. And we've all got people, I think you would agree, that cause you to get really upset. And believe it or not, those political mean-minded SOBs are doing you a favor. Now, the first method of building presence, and you can get really good at this, is by becoming totally present when your self-esteem is not being threatened. And I assure you that little bar bouncing up and down can threaten your self-esteem or going against you. So when you're walking in the park, when you're at dinner, do your best to be completely there. And very quickly, your threshold of presence will grow. Nature's good. Holidays are good. When you've got that, and you're watching Niagara Falls, you're watching Victoria Falls, you're watching a polar bear, Steve's polar bear, meander around somewhere or other in the Antarctic. That can keep you totally grounded in the moment. You can go through these at your leisure, folks. Focus on what's happening now and tell me what problems you've got. There's a really good book that I think is worth a read. It's a long read. It's called A Course in Miracles. And in that it says, I'm only affected by my thoughts. Now, Steve spoke about this on Friday. And this is what the more spiritual people such as Eckhart Tolle have been talking for a long time. It's called cultivating the silent watcher, to become a silent watcher of your thoughts. Don't judge those thoughts, and you'll find that the same thoughts, especially trading-related thoughts, will come over and over and over again. So don't judge them, but do your best to laugh at them and dismiss them. So get yourself to a point where you're watching your own thoughts, and you'll find that the thoughts will come and they will act like a room full of naughty children. And the same thoughts rattle on in there for many years. Don't believe everything you think. And the final method of building presence is to try and get the reptile brain and the more conscious brain in sync. And invariably, there's a half a second lapse between the two. And in fact, I was speaking to a young man on Friday who'd just done a course on that from the same chap in Cape Town that I quoted on Friday. Something will happen. For example, on your desk, there's a pen. Have you ever knocked a pen off your desk and you've caught it and you can't believe how quick you are? Has that ever happened to you? And that's because the reptile brain has reacted to this pen falling half a second before your conscious mind got that thought through to you. That's what's happened. Similarly, when somebody chucks a ball at you fast, you duck, chucks a ball at you slowly, you catch it. Ball coming slowly gives the conscious mind and the reptile mind time to actually work together. So I think your mother always told you that before you're going to hit somebody, take 3 deep breaths. Did your mother tell you that, sir? And just about to deck somebody, take 3 deep breaths. Well, I think that 11 deep breaths is what the old Buddha spoke about, to try and put yourself, and the real reasons to keep the reptile mind and the more conscious minds in sync. There's a half a second lapse between the two in a danger situation. And that half a second is responsible for many of the emotional errors that you make, where you resolve that you're going to let this run, and all of a sudden you take your 2 ticks profit. And then you swear to yourself that you're never going to do that again. And the next day you do the same damn thing over again. That's that half-second difference between this fella, whose job is to keep you alive when a tiger is about to nail you, and this one that processes information much more consciously. A big part of emotional overreactions, quick reactions, is caused by that half second. And the more present you are, the easier it's going to become to overcome those actions that occur in a part of your brain that you know bugger all about. That was designed to keep you alive when the old saber-toothed tiger was hunting you down. End of day traders. End of day traders. So if you're sitting at your computer in the evening and you've got some decisions to make, then get yourself into the zone by taking 11 deep breaths. I think of all of the methods of building presence, cultivating the silent watcher is the most important. Now, I quoted a book on Friday. It was called Practicing the Power of Now. Kathy here spent 6 weeks, I believe, studying the book. I did an awful lot of mentoring at institutions, and they used to look at me funny when I actually handed out a copy of Practicing the Power of Now at an institutional trading seminar. And all traders live in the present moment. All big winners live in the present moment. Golfers live in the present. All good golfers live in the present moment. All good tennis players live in the present moment. In fact, there's a book called The Inner Game of Tennis by Tim Galloway? And if you Tipex out golf and write in trading, it really works. There is a golf coach. What's the name of the golf coach? He's written a book on peak performance in golf, and he was Tiger's coach. He was Ernie Els's coach. Pardon? No, not that guy. Pardon? Can't remember his name. I've got his book sitting in Notting Hill, in fact. If you Tipex out, for those of you that can that are under 50. Tipex is a little white stuff you put on the paper. If you Tipex out golf and you write in trading, his books are really, really great. Manchester United have got 2 coaches, and one a new age fella and one university-trained chappie, and their job is to keep people in the present moment, especially when they're kicking penalties. You imagine you're taking England against South Africa, and it's injury time, and you're sitting there trying to take a 3-pointer. You know, presence required to do that. Wayne Rooney said so beautifully, they're never a formality, okay? When, I don't know, who's at the top of the Formula One at the moment? Okay, well, they are all coached to be in the moment when they're in their little red car, or whatever color the car is. To stay there. All winners in every endeavor, folks, live in the moment. Now, I think it was Belinda asked, or somebody asked Tom yesterday what his goals were. I don't know who that was, but it is my view, folks, that we all should have some goals, yeah? And then forget about them. Maybe break them down into steps and to do our best to be fully in the moment and put everything into that one particular step. Review your goals once a week, but if you get to a point where you're continually chasing that goal, you lose this moment. So, by all means, have goals, by all means. And I think we all should have. But don't allow this moment to become a stepping stone to a future moment. So, I don't know what your goals are, but certainly break them down. Stick to have a daily list of what you're going to do. Prioritize that daily list, and then do your best that when you're completing your list, to be completely and utterly there. When you're writing that report, when you're completing this trade. So I'm not knocking goal setting at all, but I'm saying that many people chase goals and they never get there. The reason they never get there is that they're actually always chasing and not putting a great... the only place where there is creativity is in the present moment. So don't allow this moment to become a stepping stone to a future moment. But I'll leave that with you. And let Eckhart Tolle talk you through all of that.
Candle flip.
In trading as in life, don't be concerned with the fruit of your actions. Give attention to the action itself. The fruit will come of its own accord. And I've got ahead of myself. Don't allow this moment to become a stepping stone to a future moment. And our job is to execute perfect trades over and over and over again. I think I've hammered that to death now. And you can read these bits and pieces for yourself. Surrender to the market itself. To surrender is to accept the present moment without reservation or inner conflict. You see this at airports. British Airways says, flight's delayed for 2 hours. An old fella goes completely mad, you know. It's not going to help. He's going to get a heart attack. British Airways don't care. To be able to surrender to the markets is quite something. Non-surrender hardens the shell of the ego. The market is perceived as threatening. The market is now your enemy, and it's quite common to hear traders swear at the screen. When you have an expectation, I was speaking to Belinda about this earlier, when you start, who's brand new here? Is any people are brand new or consider themselves brand new? A few of us, not many of us, a few of us. Well, you've got a huge advantage, sir, because as you're new, you probably don't know anything. When you don't know anything, you've got no expectation to be able to work out whether the market's going to go up or down. And you'll find that you make a heap of money. 6 months into the journey, you're now a guru. You've been on courses, you've read books, and slowly but surely that expectation comes that you know what's going to happen next. And as soon as you've got an expectation in anything and that expectation doesn't work out, you actually get a dose of pain from the universe. And it sits there like about 3 pints of Guinness at lunchtime. Okay. Causes an awful lot of pain. That pain grows and grows and grows and makes trading quite difficult indeed. So one of the ground rules of this is to try and get yourself to a point where you've got no judgment, no resistance, no negativity. And as Mark Douglas says in his book, get yourself to a point where you have 2 levels of belief. At the level of one trade, anything can happen. Anything. It only takes one idiot somewhere in the world to totally stuff your position. Remember vividly, Tom and I were trading online a lifetime ago. Again, when Skype was new, and we were talking online, and I went into an oil position, and within a few minutes, well, half an hour, I was up £5,000 in that position. It was good money. This is nearly 20 years ago. I was feeling so flush. I went out to the kitchen and I brewed up a big pot of tea, Earl Grey. And I threw all those Presbyterian principles away. I put in an extra tea bag. All right? I was feeling really flush. I came back. My £5,000 was gone, and my £1,500 stop loss was gone. I hadn't brought the stop loss up. Some idiot had blown up a pipeline in Nigeria. Until you can predict an idiot who's about to blow up a pipeline, you don't know what's going to happen next, folks. You really don't. So to have an expectation that you know what's going to happen next in this environment where the lead is in the sky, as the Dubliners once said in a popular drinking song, is just crazy. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. If you're right 80% of the time, you're wrong 20% of the time. On the next trade, you don't know whether it's one of the 80 or one of the 20. That's the reality of the situation. So if you think you know what's going to happen next and it doesn't happen, the Guinness is on the way. And that pain grows and grows and grows, and it's got some terrible consequences, that pain. So, and this is the one thing that helped my trading when I first read Trading, The Disciplined Trader, was that traders need 2 levels of belief, folks. At the level of one trade, you have to firmly believe that anything can happen. But at the level of 30 trades, you have to firmly believe with every core of your being that your edge will work out. And that's difficult. All of us understand thinking and probabilities at an intellectual level. We were all taught stats at school. But to understand probabilities at a stomach level is quite something. And certainly that month gambling in Vegas helped me immensely at that. And I suggest, and I used to do with all my coaching clients, that we learn how to play backgammon. Because if you learn to play backgammon with the dice, okay, you learn to think in probabilities very quickly. I know we've got one backgammon player here. Yep, there he is. Maybe we've got 2. So one of the things that I could recommend heartily to get yourself to a point where you can think in probabilities is go to your local store or buy it online, a simple, cheap backgammon set. Learn how to play backgammon. Do not get tuition from a Greek fella, because he will rub you blind. Those Greeks are taught how to play backgammon. Any Greek folk here? At their mother's knee. And if he brings out that doubling cube, you run for cover, okay? Because that's how the bet rises geometrically. So, but learning how to play backgammon is a very simple way to get your mind into thinking in probabilities, thinking in a batch of trades as opposed to one trade. And backgammon is good. If you ever get a casino that plays craps, craps is a great game as well to get you to a point where you can think in probabilities. And I love the craps game. It's my favorite game at the casinos. There's only a few tables in London. Again, the table trends, and if you bet that it's going to keep going, you can take money off the table. You've got to be bigger when you're right than you are when you're wrong. And I don't think it's possible to beat markets without doing that. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So, and here's my metaphor for this, folks. And this is something I would like you to think about. I think that in trading, we're walking along in a dark night, surrounded by a thick fog. We have no idea what's going to happen next. None. Not in this environment. Not in any environment. You've got a torch. And that torch illuminates a narrow path in front of you. The fog is your life and the ups and downs of the market. The torch beam is your conscious presence. And the focused, clear place ahead is the present moment. That's my metaphor for what I've just been talking about. And if you find your trading unsatisfactory, it's only by surrender where you can take positive action to change. And you certainly won't work out what's going to happen next. Let's go back to the Guinness. Let's say that you have an expectation that this trade's going to work out, and it doesn't work out. The Guinness arrives. It sits in your stomach here. Creates a great deal of pain. That happens again. More pain arrives. You've now got your setup comes again, and your job is to execute that setup without fear or hesitation. But our minds have got two characteristics. They associate one moment with a previous moment, and they want to avoid pain. The setup comes again, sir, and at a level that you know nothing about, your mind sees the last two, and it says, this caused me pain. And at a level you know nothing about, you'll subtly hesitate. Has anybody ever hesitated to take a trade here? That's the reason why. And the way to get over that is to stop the pain. And the only way to stop the pain is to believe with every fiber of your body that at the level of one trade, anything can happen. So if you have pain, it's because you haven't fully accepted that fact. And Mark Douglas's exercise of 30 trades will do its best to get rid of that pain for you. So that's the process that I think you should work through. Nobody does it. I do courses for VectorVest. There's 100 people in the course. I say to them all, every last one of them, I want you now, first of all, to write out a trading plan for me and send it to me, and I'll critique it for you. Out of the 100, you get 5 people who send it back. And out of the 5, you get 3 people that do the 30 trades. It's difficult. And I can see in your faces that these clusters that old fellow is talking about, in fact, don't apply to me. So this is an exercise that has to be done, in my humble opinion. It is a rite of passage. Tom has done it and done it 100 times. Belinda, that's your next step, girl. I'll work with you all the way, okay? More than happy to help, if anything. And old Nassim Taleb, the guy who's written Fooled by Randomness, Nicky Taleb. You met him, Larry? Yeah, he's a nice guy. Nice guy. I know him